All right. So you finished the whole thing?
I finished the whole thing. I was a Beatle fanatic, and I watched it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night with the family. Now we're all Beatle fanatics.
That's so nice. You all watched it together, all of it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
We all sat around after dinner, whatever, and they flew by. I didn't want it to end. I
Yeah.
want to go to New Zealand and get all that footage that Peter Jackson has.
Yeah. What are there, 150 hours or 50 hours or?
I think so. Yeah, it's an amazing amount of film footage.
Yeah. So what were your overall, before we get into our list of
Mhm.
top 10 takeaways,
Yes, yes.
what was just kind of like your overall feel about it?
I loved it. I was over the moon about it. I was looking forward to it. I guess I started playing the guitar when I was 11, so that would have been 77. So the Beatles had only been broken up for what, 7 years at that point. So they were still, in people's minds, as having been a recent band. And so they were the first band that I really got into, and I would, get books on them. I would get all their records. I would buy their solo records, and especially around Christmas time, it always, like I would ask my parents for Beatles stuff, Beatle posters. um, so I was so looking forward to this, and it was not a letdown at all. It was even more than I expected.
Now, do you have any memory of them like before they broke up? Like, you would be too young to have memories of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my sister, who is about 9 years older than me, talked my grandmother into taking her to Hard Day's Night. So that would be what, like 64 or so, 65. But I remember my sister really liked them, and she had some of their records.
And you were born in what, 60 what?
66.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't have much memory. I mean, I have memory of my sister,
Yeah. Yeah.
listening to them.
Yeah.
And I have, more memories of their solo stuff, in the
Yeah.
70s, buying their
Mhm.
records.
Mhm.
But yeah. What about you?
Same. They are really the most. I'm just such a huge, 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 huge fan of the Beatles. It's almost immeasurable. I mean, like we were talking about last week at the end there. There's the Beatles, the New York Mets, Star Wars,
Right.
and these are the things that have like defined my existence on this planet. And none of them are bigger than the Beatles, though. And
Yeah.
but they've always been much more than just a band, and much more than just music that I love. They are like,
Mhm.
they're like larger than life embodiments of I don't know, friends. They're almost like, they've always felt like friends to me. They've always felt like real human
Yeah.
beings that are part of my life.
Hmm.
Um, at the same time, they feel like characters,
Right.
like fictional characters, because they've become so I don't know, immortalized,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
They're almost like characters from mythology.
Hmm.
And that's what made
Right.
the documentary so interesting in one from one perspective, is that it was like watching mythological beings do
Yeah.
real things. I had never seen that before. I mean, I've seen, YouTube videos of them chit-chatting a little bit, that sort
Right.
of thing, but other than that, I've only seen them in character as the public facing persona of the four Beatles.
Right.
But I'd
Sure.
never really seen them like that. And so it was sort of like seeing mythological figures
Hmm.
as in the process of doing what they did to make their art. And
Right. Right.
it's like unbelievably joyful.
Yeah. It was goosebumps for me
Yeah.
a couple of times.
And I could see that if you're not a huge fan, you might have, like, and if you watch the whole thing, there were stretches that maybe you were like, what is the deal with this? They're just sitting around. They're not even doing anything.
I know,
But those folks, I don't think they could really get it,
I don't think so. Yeah, I know there's the kind of like cynical, cool kid,
Or that they just don't know, that
They just don't
like, the
know.
Beatles never touched
Yeah.
them in that deep way.
Right.
So for them, it's just like, what aren't they're just kind of like going to the bathroom and smoking cigarettes and
I know.
arguing
But
and like, what's
yeah.
special about this, right? But if you know them on that deeper level, then
Oh yeah, just hearing them work through something and develop something. You hear the finished or I was hearing the finished song in my head,
right.
and I was like, oh, I wonder when George is going to come up with that, guitar part,
That was a very cool
And-
thing because we, as the audience, we had a little bit of a leg up on them,
right. Yeah.
right? Because we knew where those songs were going to go, but they didn't know yet.
They didn't know. Yeah.
And I remember that there was that one part where either George or John were working on something, and I was like talking to the screen saying, no, you're so close.
Right, not that part. Yeah.
Go to the E7. You're almost there.
Right. No, it's a descending line. Yeah, I know.
It had sort of like a little bit of that Back to the Future kind of thing, right? Where Marty was able to see his parents as kids, and he could almost like tell them, no,
Right.
you got to take her to that dance. You don't understand. You have to take her to that dance.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, George, you have to go to an E7 there. You have to. There's no other way to do it. You don't understand.
Will eventually.
Like,
yeah. I know. I think it was Don't Let Me Down during the first part, nobody ever, and then Harrison does that those descending kind of, and they were just working on the song and I thought, oh, where's that part?
right.
And then he tried different things out and it didn't work, so yeah, it's like watching Michelangelo,
Yeah.
you're like, no, I don't like that at all. Let's try something different.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's the equivalent of like things we'll never get to see, right? Like we'll never get to see Shakespeare writing a play or Beethoven working out a symphony, but we were able to see the Beatles creating songs.
Yeah. It was incredible. Yeah.
In real time. Like, hey, George, I've got this one,
Right.
I don't know what to do with it,
Right. I didn't have any words. Or Lennon telling George Harrison, just make up anything, cauliflower, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think he was trying to play something at the time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great. It was crazy.
I loved it.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
And Peter Jackson is he's great. I mean, one of the things I loved that he did was that he didn't include any interviews or talking heads, or he didn't break to let people talk a little bit about something like now.
Yeah. Oh, that would have completely messed up the whole rhythm of the movie, the feel of it. Because once it started, I felt like you were in it. It was like you were in the studio. And
I really did love that prologue. That was well done.
That was great.
Like, let's just get it out of the way. Like I know everybody knows this story already, so let's just go through it really fast.
Right.
We can get to where we want to get to, but it would be wrong not to at least kind of tell a little bit of that story. Let me just let this kitty cat out.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your let's hear your first takeaway.
My first takeaway is a funny one, I think. Maybe not. I thought I'd start off a light one. And it's I think they lived on tea and toast.
Oh yeah, just tea and toast.
Tea and toast. And then I would get hungry for tea and toast. And I would go make a couple of pieces of toast with honey and and then turn on the kettle and make some tea. What a great snack. But I think that's all they lived on.
And it just kept coming.
It just kept coming. You see the people coming in from the canteen or whatever.
Yeah.
And they would bring all this, cups of tea and and plates of toast.
There was one point where they ordered out, right?
Right. Yeah.
But other than that, it was tea and toast. And I mean, from what we know about nutrition, I don't think you could really keep going on tea and toast, right? You need some protein. No. You need
some different kind of vegetables.
You need some veggies.
I know.
I thought at one point also I thought they were drinking coffee. Was I?
Oh really? Okay.
I thought so.
Oh, I must have missed that.
It looked like
I wouldn't doubt it.
Huh?
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like what was in those mugs looked a little bit darker and closer to like an espresso or something than it looked to tea, but
Mm.
I could be wrong. There's not much in the history books about anyone British really drinking coffee. So
No, yeah, yeah. Tea
um,
was the thing. Yeah.
yeah, but you're right.
I'm not sure how
That toast looked so delicious.
it did. I know. So I lived on tea and toast for 3 days as well.
Yeah,
So
that's great. That's
so
so
it's a light one. That's my first takeaway.
okay.
All right, what do you got?
My first one is the songs they would never get to.
Mm,
It was a very bittersweet thing to watch John working on the road to Marrakesh, which would eventually become Jealous Guy,
right. Yeah.
or Paul for a little while starts to play something from his first album. I forget what it was.
Hmm.
I forget which one it was, but it's from his first album. And
Yeah.
then George obviously working through All Things Must Pass.
Right.
And also John was working on Give Me Some Truth at one point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just the idea that those songs were already in their brains and could have been Beatles songs, and what would they have sounded like as Beatles songs?
Right. Sure.
But
We'll never know.
we'll never
I mean, we
know.
kind of have a little glimpse, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I thought about that too. That was, yeah. And it was
And then
so,
at one point, George references wanting to make an album by himself, right?
yes, him and
And
John are talking. Yeah.
he and John are talking, and John's not really. He doesn't seem that interested, to be honest. And I thought
No.
that was a little mean and a little sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it looks like
Right.
John's looking around the room for someone else to talk to. I got the sense that they didn't find George very interesting. You know?
Yeah. I think they, I think he kind of, I think they kind of pigeonholed him, because they've known him since he was what, 13 or 14.
Yeah, yeah,
And he was always the little guy tagging along,
yeah,
you know, and Paul kind of probably had, play this part, play that part. And I think by the time you get to that time period, some of George's songs are, comparable to, and in some cases surpass Lennon and McCartney songs.
yeah.
I think you can put something up against anything that they were putting out on Abbey Road. Um, and so I think they had him like this is your box you fit in. And I think he
Yeah.
probably did more growth in a lot of them than, as they did as well. But
I think it didn't. I think it also didn't help that George is such like a very gentle and rather slow talker. Like it takes him a while to
right,
get his ideas out.
right.
And Paul and John are just like they're
Yeah, yeah.
almost like coked up
Snapping and
sometimes.
popping.
Yeah, they're just ripping and scatting. And George like he really contemplates what he wants to say. It takes him
Hmm.
a minute, and you could almost see in Paul and John's face a little bit like,
Mm,
okay, like what? Okay, get to the
right.
point, George.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like losing patience a little bit with like how long it would take him to get his thoughts out. But
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, let's move
Good
on.
one.
So the songs they would never get to. Yeah.
Yeah. Number two for me, I guess, is kind of related to what you said. It's that when I first got into the Beatles, George was my favorite, and after watching Let It Be, he kind of, it just cemented that kind of feeling in my head that what a, you know, what a great musician and songwriter he was, and also like as a human, he just seems so centered. And what you were saying earlier, kind of, thinking about what he was going to say, and he definitely got some zingers in there. um, but I think just I respect him so much as a musician. Um, seeing that it was interesting seeing the difference. McCartney is very aggressive. When he was playing Get Back, he was just like wailing on the bass. Just kind of, or even when he's playing the drums when they're doing like the avant-garde stuff with Yoko, he's just like smashing the drums. Um, and I know he can play soft and delicate as well, but George's style always appealed to me. It would always fit the song. It was always melodic.
Yeah.
There never seemed to be like a note out of place, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like him. It was everything was like he had thought about it, you know. And that seeing him in the documentary just kind of, reconfirmed that for me. So my love of George, number two.
Yeah, what I love about him, first of all, he's a really great guitar player by that point, you know.
Hmm.
I think that there were, when I read that Jeff Emerick book, they go into some detail about how George wasn't maybe that great of a guitar player early on, and they had to
Yeah.
do takes over and over again and kind of stitch together his solos.
Yeah.
But at that point, he's clearly an amazing guitar player, and what's really the most amazing thing about him to me are his ideas. And
Hmm.
he's not a show off at all. He doesn't
Right.
play flashy look at me solos or anything like that. In fact, you always get the sense that he doesn't want
Right.
attention, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, he
Right.
doesn't do any of that classic sort of lead guitarist body language where they go like this and
Right. I know. They're
close
like,
their eyes and all that stuff. He just plays his parts, and his parts are brilliant, right? But
oh
there's
yeah.
no fancy, guitar god stuff going on. It's just
Hmm.
finding really great parts that accentuate the song.
Yeah.
And
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's his great gift, you know.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. So all hail George.
Yeah, makes me
20 years
sad.
he's been
Makes me
gone.
sad. I have to say, it really does. It's sad.
Yeah.
A friend of mine pointed out while he was watching it, he just wanted to scream at George to stop smoking all those cigarettes.
Oh, I know.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. People didn't know about. I mean, they kind of knew, but not really. Not the way we do now.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, that's a good one.
All right. What do you got for your number?
So my next one is kind of like, it's a double thing. It's a double-edged sword. It's the sadness mixed with the happy. So one of the most poignant parts of the whole thing, I thought, was that moment where, and I think I wrote about it yesterday on Facebook, but that moment where they're waiting for John to get there that day. They know George isn't going to come because he already quit, and John is just late as usual.
Right.
And so they're just kind of sitting around, and at one point Paul says, now there are two.
Mm.
And you can see they hold the camera on his face for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think he knows the camera's on him. And
Right.
you can see like 1,000 emotions go through his face. And
Mhm.
you can see watery glossiness to his eyes, And
Yeah.
you can almost see at that exact moment. And he's also got a lot of nervous twitches, Paul, right? Like he plays with his beard a lot. And you can see that right at that moment, he knows it's over.
Yeah.
He knows he's lost John to Yoko.
Yeah.
And he knows he's lost George to just wanting to do other things.
Right. Right.
And so, this guy that he grew up with, his best friend, is moving on.
Yeah.
And this other best friend is moving on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's all about in a way, but also it's all about this incredible amount of joy and happiness that they're all going through, which, thank God, this came out so that we know for sure that they were really happy still.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
So
Yeah.
it's just that double thing going on throughout the whole documentary
Mm-hmm.
of this
Yeah.
combination of sad and happy. And again, this is one of those moments where the audience has a little bit of a leg up on all of them because we know all this history that's coming.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
they don't know yet.
Yeah. You kind of have. I mean, you get different perspectives on all of them. And especially even you can see Paul is trying to hold it together. Especially in the first episode where he's kind of working your last nerve a little bit. But I think it's just because he wants to keep it together. And this is how, sometimes when you feel like you're out of control, it's like, oh, I have to control this,
Yeah.
And they had all at one point, Ringo had quit, right, during the White Album or something.
He did. Yeah, he did leave. Yep.
Yeah. So they had all, like, and George had quit, and John was, obviously on his way out the door. So I think it's felt like Paul was just trying to, like, let's keep it together, this is a good thing we have going here,
Yeah,
and you
right.
feel for him, because you're like,
Yeah. You're annoyed by him, but you also sympathize.
right, yeah, in retrospect, yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. But
yeah,
see, with John, I never really got the sense that he was thinking that this might be over. He seems really, really happy. In episodes 2 and 3,
yeah,
he seems so happy. And you get the sense that he would have been okay making music with those guys forever.
right,
Um,
yeah, I
but
know
then
yeah.
yeah, you know what's coming with the Alan Klein
I was
situation.
just gonna say that,
Yeah.
yeah. Like a
Um,
year later, he's gone,
yeah, yeah.
you
But
know.
you can tell that he's not gone because he had grown tired or frustrated with making music with them anymore.
Right, right. I think probably on some level they all maybe hope that they could do other things and do the Beatles,
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
think in
that's right.
today's world, that would be more the norm, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
People do that all the time. People in a couple different bands,
Absolutely. Tom
people
York.
for
Tom York just made a solo album.
yeah,
Jeff Tweedy makes
exactly.
solo albums all the time,
Yeah.
but
So
then
I
they
think
always go back to their main thing.
right, exactly. So I think yeah,
Yeah, I think in retrospect, if I could have said anything to them, if I had been there, I would have said, guys, you can take a break from this
right,
and still do this. Like
right,
it's not, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like,
right. Because we'll need you. Music.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But who knows? Maybe as as we know now, some bands hang on too long, and maybe
they
the
do.
magic of the Beatles is that they did end. Um,
Right. They
and
didn't
they ended
end up
before
like the
they,
Rolling Stones or the yeah,
yeah, they ended before they became a punchline of any kind, or
right.
before they wore out their welcome with fans. And I mean, like, look at U2, for example. U2 has become like kind of an afterthought now. And if they make a new album, I don't know. Like, I don't want to,
Yeah, no, I
jump
know
on
what you
U2
mean.
or anything, but they've been together for a long time, and maybe they're, what they wanted to give the world, maybe they already gave it, and maybe they,
Right. Their relevance when they were kind of, when a new U2 record was out, it was like, oh, they have a new record. It was like people were waiting for it. And
yeah,
now it's, oh, and then, so yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah.
And
Anyway,
it's not like they're putting out bad records. It's just,
no, I mean, that's
yeah,
one thing they can hang their hat on, right? Is they never made a bad album.
right. Exactly.
They really barely ever made a bad song, let alone a bad album.
Yeah,
So that's pretty
it's
cool,
true.
right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good one.
Not fade away, as Buddy Holly said.
That's right. Not fade away. Yeah. Nice.
All right, what's your next one?
My next one is the get my list here. The Rooftop Concert.
Hmm.
And I never noticed, I didn't remember, or I didn't know at the time, because Ringo Starr's wife, Maureen, was on the roof
Mm-hmm.
and she was grooving. And I remember reading she was at the Cavern Club. So she was like, she kind of brought it all back
Oh, wow.
to like the early days. She was a fan, right?
Hmm.
And a hairdresser, and she would go see them at the Cavern Club. So I think maybe her and Mal might have been, the only two people there who had witnessed that transformation from them at the Cavern Club, you know,
Yeah.
to their last concert. So seeing her up there, kind of like she was really, like she was digging it,
Yeah.
and she just seemed so happy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So that's it. It's not a huge takeaway, but it was just like something that kind of like, oh, that's really sweet.
So wait,
What
is this one for you, the Rooftop Concert or Maureen Starkey?
Maureen Starkey, yeah,
Oh, okay.
Ringo's wife, yeah.
Okay.
So let's takeaways like seeing her and knowing that she was that connection between them just being famous in Liverpool to them being this, global, sensation. So
Right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
yeah. So just a little nerdy observation.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's great. That's like a really small thing. All right, my next one is so for in many ways, I thought this documentary had a really amazing way of seeming like a feature film with
Yeah.
actors.
Hmm.
Like they were just such amazing characters that you almost can't believe these aren't people playing these people.
Right.
And I don't mean the four Beatles. I mean
Everybody.
them, but also just all the surrounding characters, right?
Right.
So
Mal. Yeah.
my next one is just all the other characters.
Yeah.
Right. So Mal,
Hmm.
who he's just great.
He is, like when he asked him to get the anvil, the hammer.
But he's so good natured and fun. And
Oh, he is.
he's just such a goofball, right? And
Yeah.
he's got that great smile.
And they've known each other for a long time, so they kind of rag on each other a little bit,
Yeah. So Mal and then Glyn.
Mm.
He's a character with those glasses.
Oh, and his outfits.
Yeah, and he's clearly really technically, competent, and
Oh, yeah.
he's also kind of like, a swinging '60s dude,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
him, and then that redheaded, he must have been a teenager at that point, or like in his early
The
20s.
roadie, yeah. Kevin, is it Kevin Harrington? Yeah.
So he was a character with his button always up to his top button, and then he had these like bulging muscles, right? And George Martin is always a character, and
Right.
and then during the rooftop concert, okay, that whole thing with the cops,
Oh,
that was
cop
like
looked like he
right
was
out
about
of Monty
12.
Python, right? Like the way that they were all giving those cops the runaround.
Right. Delaying them.
It really seemed like actors.
Oh, I know.
So those two cops and all the people who worked at Apple who were like sending them on these wild goose chases to keep them from getting upstairs to the roof. And then when they finally get to the roof, they're like, okay, whatever,
Right. You're really going to stop the Beatles? Yeah.
Yeah. And the way that one guy kept saying, like 30 people have complained already. He kept saying, I've gotten 30 complaints.
In a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
At the headquarters, right. Yeah.
So yeah, just all the characters who were just like right out of British comedy shows.
Yeah.
I kept expecting Michael Palin to walk in or something like that,
Totally. It didn't help that he looked like he was about 12 years old too.
Yeah, right.
Cop.
That stupid strap that they wear.
I know, they kind of like, they kept slipping it out of their mouth too. They would suck on it for a little while.
Right.
And then spit it out.
Like, these are figures of authority, really?
I know, it's like, you can't take this guy seriously, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun too, seeing like the tape op guys like Alan Parsons, really young Alan Parsons.
Right.
And Chris Thomas was there too, another producer.
No, I didn't know that.
Who was also really young. It's like, these guys would eventually go on and do some pretty amazing things on their own right. So yeah.
And then Peter Sellers dropped by.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. It didn't really go anywhere. It was fun to see Peter Sellers, but it was just like, here's Peter Sellers,
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to say something funny or something, but yeah, I thought, well, that was interesting. Okay, I like Peter Sellers,
Yeah.
So yeah.
What's your next one?
All right, my next one actually, hold on. It kind of, it was, my next one was about Glenn Johns actually. How it was a surprise because you always hear about George Martin being the producer, and I guess in this case George Martin was maybe the executive producer or something, or
I think so.
But just seeing Glenn Johns work, being young and kind of holding his own with the Beatles in some cases, was pretty cool to see. I really liked him. I thought he was a really cool character, and his technical expertise, because the whole thing was they were going to do this live album, right? With no overdubs, so it was up to him to kind of orchestrate that and make sure they were getting, good recordings and everything. And he certainly went on. He worked with everybody after that. Led Zeppelin, The Who, you know, you name it. So I mean, Glenn Johns was my next takeaway. Is just someone who was kind of young, maybe just starting out, but incredibly like under what could have been a really intimidating experience, kind of held his own, you know.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking too. Like, how is this guy not intimidated by George Martin being right there? And how is George Martin like holding back from being more involved and more pushy and like that?
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool too, that he could step back
Oh
and let
yeah,
this other guy
definitely.
run the show when he had been the man
Yep.
for all their other stuff. But he really was like, it's okay, it's cool, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just
He
here
would
to
just
kind of
pop
help.
in every once in a while. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. So I thought Glenn, I didn't, I mean, I always knew his name and what is his brother's name? Andy Johns,
I don't know.
um, another record producer guy. So I'd always known his name and seen his name on records, but just kind of seeing him in action I thought was pretty cool. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's my other takeaway. I don't know
cool.
which number I'm on. I got to look up my list here.
Yeah,
All right. What do you got?
I think we're going fast tonight because we're so excited.
What do you got? What do you got?
Okay, my next one is Billy Preston.
Oh yeah.
What can you say, right? Like I'd always heard that when he got there, it lifted everybody's spirits and made everything
Mhm.
light.
Yep.
But man, talk about a tangible, visceral thing that you could feel coming right through the screen. That when he got there,
Oh
they
yeah.
they were so enraptured and just filled with excitement about him being there and how good he was so fast.
Hmm. Oh
Um,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just
That.
amazing. Like what a great
Yeah.
touch he had on that piano, and how cool that they used an electric piano that was just, that it would happen to
Yeah.
be there.
Hmm.
Um, and how good natured he was, and how funny he was, and how his smile just like lifted the room.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh, and just the serendipityness of it, right? Serendipity of it.
Serendip. Yeah.
That he happened to just stop by right when they needed a piano player because they were going to do this live version and they just didn't have enough hands to do all the things.
Right. And there he is. Yeah. And
Yeah.
he's a really talented. He just caught on right away.
Yeah.
You know.
And so young, right? So it adds also this like youthful,
Yeah.
exuberance that, I mean, they're young also, right?
Right.
But
No one's 30 yet.
no one's 30 yet. It's unbelievable.
Glenn's the oldest, right? He's not even 29 there. He's
Right.
28.
That's just mind blowing. That's such a trippy thing. I can't, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But yeah, just he's so great. And
Yeah.
at one point I thought they were taking advantage of him, but I think that worked out because I remember there was one conversation where George was saying, this is really great for him too. Like he's going to get a lot of notoriety from this and be really good for his career.
Right.
And
I remember
maybe we
that.
don't even have to pay him or something like that. But I'm assuming he was kidding around.
I think he was kidding. Yeah, I always thought like because they definitely had that kind of humor about them, that I think some people may have taken. Yeah, I thought,
Yeah.
yeah,
I hope he was well compensated for that.
I think he was.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it was. I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. I was on my list too, actually. Billy
Gotcha.
Preston. I think we'll probably have a few things similar on our list.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially as we get to the higher numbers.
Oh, I know. Let's see. All right. This might be on your list too, but it was maybe this is a higher one. The friendship between the four of them and the way they would, I mean, it's kind of coming to an end shortly, right? Within a year. But the thing that struck me was like George helping Ringo with Octopuses Garden,
Mm,
that was just so
that's really
sweet,
nice.
because he starts playing it and it's almost like people are kind of like, oh, it's a Ringo, but George kind of hears it and he kind of walks over and he helps him out, and he helped him out even further, for the Abbey Road sessions. But just seeing that the way they kind of would pull together, and even though there was friction, you could still tell they loved each other. They
Yeah.
loved the work they were doing.
Well, I think in many ways, Ringo was the glue because they all loved him so much.
Right. Yeah.
so that helped them not be too mean to each other overall,
Right.
like
Yeah.
for the sake of Ringo, you know.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And I never knew Ringo was the initial writer of that song. I thought that was a Lennon-McCartney composition that they just wrote so he could sing it. I didn't know he came up with
Yeah.
the idea.
That was one of his first songs, right? Wasn't it?
I don't know.
I think it was.
Hmm.
And I was thinking about I left my list in the other room, but him and Harrison kind of they, over the years, George would help him write songs and not take credit for them,
Hmm.
you know. Don't Come Easy. Apparently George helped out with the writing of that. Back Off Boogaloo. And I think Photograph too. I think George helped.
Hmm.
And he just kind of, he produced them, but he never, I don't think he took songwriting credit for those. But
Hmm.
in all the books you read about,
Yeah.
Ringo will say, "Oh yeah, George had a big hand in writing that." So,
I
yeah,
also, the other thing I liked about that scene was it gave George a chance to be a little bit of like a songwriting sage to
a
somebody,
mentor. Yeah,
opposed to always waiting for these other two to help him.
right.
He
Yeah,
now
yeah,
got to pass on some wisdom of songwriting,
yeah. Oh,
right?
definitely.
Like he got to say, I forget what he points something out to Ringo at some point about just the craft of songwriting.
Right.
And Paul and John aren't there. And so
Yep.
like for once, he doesn't have these two legends standing over his standing over his shoulders. He can kind of like
Right.
breathe for a second and impart a little bit of knowledge to someone else.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice moment for
Yeah.
George.
Because I think you're right. I think it probably gave some confidence, because he did have an amazing amount of talent.
Right.
Yeah, but you're right. Having Lennon and McCartney looking over your shoulder, what do you think about this change?
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. I love that scene.
That was really nice. Yeah. And I liked how
Yeah, it was
it
really,
opened episode 3. Like it was a nice intro into episode 3.
yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's my latest takeaway. What do you got?
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. So my next one is Yoko. So
You might, yep, I have that one too.
I think I probably touched base with you about this in a text at some point, and I've written about it a little bit on Facebook, and I've gotten
Yeah.
some pushback from some people, but
Yeah.
I think that, the whole thing the myth is totally busted. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
found her to be completely fly on the wall. She was respectful. She didn't bother anybody. She, of course, okay, she is a presence, yes, and maybe that in and of itself is weird and disturbing to the vibe, but
Mhm.
she just sits there. Most of the time she looks very bored, and I almost feel bad for her that she didn't have something to do. And
Right.
was this more John dragging her along every day as opposed to something she really wanted to do? And
Right.
I just don't see how she's bothering anybody.
Yeah, I
She's
think
not bothering
she's
anybody.
no, I am with you 100%, and that was on my list as well. And I
And those
think
couple of times where she was able to get onto the microphone and do her Yoko thing, she didn't ask to do that. It was just kind of like it was an
no,
open moment, and John probably nudged her,
right.
and she started doing it, and Paul seemed to love it too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
So
yeah.
as I wrote on my Facebook post, I wrote hashtag give Yoko a break, because I think that is so overblown.
Uh,
Um,
I I 100% support you, and I think she's always been an easy target, for a variety of reasons. I mean, I don't need to go into it, but you know, and I was, and I've always kind of defended her, not knowing, the behind the scenes stuff, but seeing Let It Be or seeing Get Back, it was obvious that she was just hanging out. She was quiet. Her and Linda were talking, joking, smiling.
yeah,
It's like,
I would,
and Paul,
yeah, I would defy anybody to slow the whole thing down to half speed and to find one moment where Yoko distracted John to the point where John couldn't do what he was there to do.
right, or angered Paul or George or Ringo. Yeah, it didn't happen.
It did not happen.
Yeah, I think she's been vindicated 50 years later.
I think so. Or as Paul said, right? Imagine 50 years from now if we're all talking about how we broke up because Yoko sat on an amp.
Right.
Oh my God,
Whew.
how prophetic is that?
Time traveler.
Jeez.
I know. No, that
So,
was on my list too.
yep,
You ready for my next one?
yep.
I don't know if I was amazed, but I don't know what the right word is. How many songs they knew?
Like cover songs?
Cover songs. The theme from the Third Man.
Yeah.
It's like in that Cole Porter song that Friendship, was that the one?
I don't remember.
John starts kind of scatting the Cole Porter song.
Hmm.
And just like I think from just being playing in Hamburg and playing in the cavern
Yeah.
for 8 hours at a stretch, they had to know these songs, and they were just like they would pick up and they would do them. It
Yeah,
wasn't
they
like,
also
wait,
knew a lot of their peers' songs, like of the moment.
yeah, oh yeah,
Like Country Joe and the Fish, right? They were
right.
playing that song and
Going up the country, canned
yeah.
heat or whatever.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
Canned Heat. What did I say?
yeah, I
Country
think
Joe and
so.
the Fish.
Yeah, country. I think it's canned heat.
Probably Canned Heat, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so they were like really in tune with their current peers.
yeah.
They could rattle off their peers' songs,
Oh yeah.
but they could also dip into this other really random older stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah, they're
I
like a
was just.
jukebox.
They were. It was amazing. Just seeing like, oh, what are they going to pull out now?
I also loved when they would go into their older stuff, of their own stuff,
Oh yeah, I know.
like
Like
when they
Love Me
slowed
Do
they slowed down. Was it Love Me Do or
and Help. Was Help one of them too?
yeah,
I think Love Me Do was one of them. Yeah.
yeah, and it's almost like it's hard to believe that these are the same guys that were doing those songs, right, with the live
5 or 6 years
performances with the
earlier.
heads. And
I know.
now they're these chill late 20s guys,
Right, with long hair and
long hair. Yeah,
yeah. No, it was so cool to see how many songs they knew and how they could just kind of rattle them off at will.
yeah,
Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
yeah.
So
That's
that's
great.
another takeaway for me.
Okay. So my next one is just the songs and the craft of their work. Just
Mm-hmm.
how amazing those songs are, first of all, just as compositions, all their
Yeah.
songs, but here they are at the end of their run, and they're still creating some of the most amazing just songs that you're ever gonna hear.
Yeah.
And again, not to pick on our current time in music, but give me a break. There's no what's coming out now compared to what they were making is like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the chord changes, the lyrics, the fact that they're
Mm-hmm.
all playing multiple instruments. I'm
Right.
sorry,
Right.
it's on a different level.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Uh, and then just the craft of how they build songs as a team is
Mm-hmm.
just incredibly cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I agree.
It's so
No,
collaborative.
yeah, it's collaborative. I think I was looking at my list. It's kind of relates to my next one, which we can combine me. But it's like I don't think you could find any group of people more creative than them, or better writers. Um,
Yeah,
and it's like they weren't like technical virtuosos, where like George is playing 100 miles an hour, and Ringo's doing all these crazy fills and stuff, but that wouldn't have worked. They were obviously talented musicians. They knew their way around the instruments, but as far as writers and creative people and arrangers, I don't think we've come close
no,
you
no.
know
Again, nothing bad ever came out of their
canon.
creativity together. Nothing,
Yeah,
not one thing.
yeah, yeah, the
Just
creativity was just, yeah.
how is that even possible to just continuously produce quality over and over and over again?
Yeah.
And we talked about in our last podcast about how several of them, two of them,
Hmm.
go on to make some songs that were not so great.
Right.
But that did not happen when they were together as the four of them.
Right. They had that, yeah, the dialogue. And there was a couple times where that happened in the movie, right? Where what was the song where they were, was it Don't Let Me Down, where they were trying to work on harmonies and George was like, oh, that's awful. That
Yeah,
sounds awful.
yeah. Yeah.
No, don't do that.
That's a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. That sounds terrible. Yeah.
Right. So they had that, that closeness to them, where they could say those things, and be like, oh, maybe he's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a bad idea. Let's try it this way. And yeah, just the whole thing of them trying things this way, that way, slow it down, speed it up, try it with this beat. No, don't do, as musicians, we know about that. I mean, just what we were talking about earlier, one of our songs.
Yeah.
You try things out and sometimes it works. Sometimes you get a germ of idea from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
yeah. I think I'm having to pull up my phone here for my list. The Octopuses Garden. Oh, I know it was tied into the Rooftop Concert as well. Like afterwards, one of the takeaways was like how much they were fans of themselves too, when they came back down after the roof and they go into the control room and George is like, oh no, never another rooftop concert, never again. But then they're listening to the playback and their smiles are huge,
Yeah. And they're all rocking
and
to it.
they're all rocking out,
Yeah.
And it's just like, just seeing themselves be fans of themselves, was really a joyous moment, I thought,
Yeah, definitely. You're right. It's a really good one.
I love that scene when they, because it's like they have, because we're from the future, we know they have one more day in the studio for this record and then they're on break. When do they start Abbey Road? Like a month later or something? But
I think so. Really quick. Yeah.
yeah, really quick, which is amazing. But just seeing them as fans of their own work and like acknowledging that we did it, we've pulled this off, and just the way they were kind of able to like pivot,
Yeah.
and move like this kind of like this unit, these four of them,
Yeah. And I think you could also see on the faces of particularly John and Paul during the live roof concert.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just how impressed they both are with how good a live band they are.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't think that they had heard themselves be like that in a long time, right? Because they hadn't really played shows in so long.
And the equipment was different. Yeah.
Yeah. But Paul and John particularly they're just like over the moon with how great they are.
Oh yeah.
And Paul just goes into these moments of just like, woo, he's like so happy.
He's in the moment. Yeah, he's in the
zone. John is just so happy with that.
Yeah.
He's so into what they're doing on that roof, like just locked in.
And they sound great. I thought, God, what would it have been like if they'd went on the road with Billy Preston,
Yeah, really, seriously. Oh my gosh.
Because technology had changed by then. PAs were bigger.
Yep.
But just a pipe dream. Yeah. But yeah, just the joy. Yeah. In the control room and up on the roof. You're right. When they were playing, the energy, you could feel the energy, just watching it on TV.
Yeah, I got goosebumps. I almost like just jumped out of my chair. Like I just couldn't believe the level of just joy was,
yeah,
incredible.
It's like what we were saying earlier, that joy with like a little bit of sorrow too, because it's like this is the last time they're gonna play together.
Yeah. There's one moment even when they're doing take after take of Get Back.
Yeah.
And John says, and they say, should we do one more? And John says, oh, might as well. Who knows if we'll ever do this again?
Right.
And you're like, oh man,
I know.
that cuts right through you, right?
Oh yeah, it does.
Because the truth is they will never play Get Back again, ever.
Ever again. Yeah.
Um, there's not going to be a big tour where they're going to play Get Back over and over again. That's it.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was cool that in the live roof concert, they get three, I think three
Mhm.
of the versions that will make it onto the album. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
what they just weren't able to capture down in the studio,
They got live.
they got live. And thank God they had all that, high quality recording equipment where they
Oh,
could
I know. It was
capture
pretty
that.
amazing. Yeah, they got outdoor, they got mics set up outside. It's windy, it's cold,
Yeah.
but they were still able to capture those sounds.
And now I know exactly finally when it is that John says, on behalf of the band and ourselves, we hope we pass the other. I never knew where he was when he said that or what
Oh, yeah.
context, you know?
That part was in the original Let It Be movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't remember that.
But yeah, it's true. Yeah. Some of those moments you're like, that's where it is.
Yeah.
And I loved it how Peter Jackson would put on the screen, this is the take they used
Yes, that was
that
great.
went on Let It Be. And it's like, yep, I can hear it. Like
Yep.
in McCartney's vocalizations or some line Harrison played,
Yep.
it was like, oh yeah, yep, that's the one. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, you can
And,
totally catch those little pieces. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they were so good live.
Yeah.
I mean, they were, yeah, in the studio live. It didn't matter. They could do it all.
Well, I saved my last spots for the boys, for the lads.
Yeah.
So I've got three more spots. So my next one, I just wrote down Zen Ringo. Like,
Yeah.
talk about just the most mellow presence that you could possibly
Oh
have.
yeah.
Just so
Yep.
relaxed, so nonchalant, just like, yep, I'm here. I'm here when you need me.
Yeah. I'm ready.
I'm not getting fidgety. I'm not losing my patience. I'm not needing to go do something else. I'm
Yeah.
just here. I'm watching, I'm listening, and I'm ready when you need me.
Yeah.
Just so
No,
beautiful,
yeah.
and so, just so the opposite of what we imagine drummer energy to be, whether it's Keith
Right.
Moon
Yeah.
or Animal from the Muppet Show,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or really
You're just
anybody who sits behind that kit and just
Mhm.
puts that face on and just is so energized. And that's great. Like, not to take anything away from that.
Yep.
But for a drummer to have that mellow of an energy level, it's just so cool. The only other guy I can
Yeah.
think of like that is Larry Mullen Jr. He's
Mm,
also really mellow.
right. Charlie Watts was mellow.
And Charlie Watts is mellow, yeah.
Yeah. Larry Mullen Jr. Yep. Just kind of
But Charlie Watts is mellow almost in a jazz player kind of way.
right.
Where
He's almost like kind of indifferent a little bit.
yeah.
Like this stuff is below me kind of. I'd much rather be
Ringo's
playing with Charlie
mellowness is more
Parker.
just kind of like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I did one for each of them, but I put George earlier on.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Just because George is, I don't know, something. George was my favorite initially, and it was just like watching the video or the movie again. It's like, yep, George is my guy.
His
Um,
stature, I'll just cross over into George.
yeah.
His stature is amplified by the fact that you know where he's going next,
Right.
and about his friendship with Bob Dylan. That's only going to grow.
Right.
And
He'd gone to visit the band and seen like this
yeah,
kind of different way of working, maybe,
right,
or at least at the time the band was working.
right.
Um,
And we now know how incredible the All Things Must Pass album is going to be,
oh yeah.
and how kind of legendary he's going to become with the passing of time.
Yep.
You
Oh,
know,
definitely. Yep.
So he's just. I kept thinking to myself, boy, they're lucky to have him. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't really have to be there. He could probably be very happy to not be there. And
Right. Yeah.
And they're really lucky, you know.
Yeah, he was
And
like a slow
I'm
burn,
not sure they know it at the time.
I don't think they do. I think they're kind of wrapped up in their own stuff,
Yeah,
not in a bad way. Just like they're Lennon and McCartney, they're the most famous songwriters and musicians on earth at the time. You know,
yeah,
who's this other guy? It turns out this other guy is really talented too.
yeah,
He's just it's like he was like a slow burn.
yeah,
You know, um, and you're right. Yeah, his status in the world of music and culture is, it's there
yeah,
and it's legendary.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Good one. Yeah.
But I'm
Uh,
gonna, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna do John next,
Yeah, go ahead.
and the thing about it was interesting watching him because like you expect John to be like the one with all the quick quips, and like he was very like mellow in the first episode.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that.
Yeah,
Maybe he was
but
tired or something. I don't know.
tired or something. But then you see like I started thinking like Lennon seemed like one of these people that when he got into something, he was all in.
Yeah,
And it seemed like once I think the whole atmosphere at Twickenham was like so depressing. It was
yeah,
cold, it was rainy, it was cavernous, it was
yeah,
huge. It was a
yeah,
film studio, it wasn't a music studio.
yeah,
And I think once they kind of moved over to Apple Studios in Savile Row, it seemed like Lennon was like, okay, I'm in now. Him and McCartney had that talk,
yeah,
at lunch with a hidden microphone.
yeah. That was great.
I thought, no way. What?
That was great.
But it seemed to kind of like, I don't know, light a fire under him in some way. Um, and the thing about it seemed like when he was into it, he was like, no, I'm in, this is what we're doing. And it was cool to see him kind of steering the boat a little bit more, you
Yeah,
know, in his own style, because I got the feeling like he would uh let people try things a little more. He knew where songs should go and he knew what was right and what wasn't right. Where I think McCartney was like wanted to control the situation more,
hmm.
you know. But just seeing Lennon be so into it was really cool. And like his humor and his energy, you could tell like his mind was always going.
Yeah. I remember I texted you at one point during
Yeah, yeah.
two, right? And I said, I personally think that they're a better band when John steps to the forefront
Mm-hmm.
and Paul steps back a little bit.
Yep.
Um, just because John doesn't have that same kind of controlling personality that Paul has.
Right,
He
right.
he leads more in a way of like, this is just so much fun, and
Mm-hmm.
let's just let it rip, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yep.
Paul is more like that note goes there, that note goes there,
Yeah.
which is another type of leadership. You know, like
Sure.
I'm not. I guess I'm judging a little bit. I do like John's style more,
Yeah.
um, but I also think they become a better band also because
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a little more unifying, you know.
Right. I
He
think he
doesn't
lets
pick on
things.
George in quite the
Right.
way Paul picks on George.
Yeah.
And he's just smiles all the time, and but then I do think that there's that other side of him that gets a little grumpy and a little bit withdrawn and
Yeah.
not so into it, and then Paul kind of has to
Push him
step
a little
up
bit.
because
Yeah.
otherwise nothing's going to get done.
Right.
um
Yeah. It struck me like looking at like his Lennon's career or whatever, like when he was into something, whatever it was, him and Yoko doing the bed-ins for peace, it was just like he was
right,
all in.
he's all in. Yeah,
Or this, he was all in. And I think once, him and McCartney had that little talk, he seemed to be like, okay, this is what we're doing. Okay. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. And
and I was,
I think Paul's kind of happy to let him come forward a little more too.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's good. I think he feels it's good for him as well.
Hmm.
That he
Yeah.
doesn't want to be that guy actually, and he needs John to do that.
Right. Yeah.
And the other, yeah, but the other thing about John that you can't help but think about is also where he's going next.
Hmm.
Because he becomes iconic.
Oh yeah.
of the four of them,
Yeah.
he becomes like,
He's like on a, yeah, like he's almost canonized. Yeah.
yeah, almost canonized. Yeah. And part
Yeah.
of that is because of, the horrible way in which we lost him at such a young age, but also because
Right.
he was a social justice guy, and he was an anti-war guy, and he wore his heart
Right.
on his sleeve in all those ways. And he,
Oh yeah.
he
Yeah.
he's the guy that becomes the T-shirt of the
Right.
four of them. He
He's the
becomes,
Che Guevara. Yeah.
yeah, he becomes the Che Guevara T-shirt, right?
Yeah. Right.
And he's not that yet, but
Right.
it's hard to separate it, knowing that that's coming.
Right. Right.
Um,
Hmm.
it's really hard not to think about everything that happens, and that there's going to be this little circle in Central Park with the word imagine on it.
Yeah.
Only 11 years away.
11 years away. I know. Yeah.
Um, and,
That's not that long.
you kind of want to shake them and say, don't move to New York.
Stay in London. Go to
Which is
Paris.
kind of like, I think they did that actually in that movie Yesterday, right? When the guy meets them
Yeah.
at the end, he says something about like, I'm so glad you didn't move to New York, or something like that.
Yeah. 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 There's a book too called Beetlebone by an Irish writer, Kevin Barry. Did you read it ever?
No.
It's great because it imagines, I don't know if you remember, John and Yoko bought an island off the coast of Ireland in the late
I do remember
60s.
that, yeah. I heard about it, yeah.
And so this kind of book reimagines, like, what if John is still around and it's like, 1990 something or 2000, he flies over to Ireland to try to, check out the island, and he has to get a cab, and it's just like this adventures of this older John Lennon, traveling over to Ireland to try, make his way with these locals, in this kind of like, very rural part of Ireland.
Yeah.
It's a great book. It's really, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like one of those fun things, because, like, we all wish he was still here,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it devastated me when that day.
Oh man. And
As
to
a
think
ninth
that
grader.
it's only 11 years away from that
Oh,
moment,
I know.
that movie
Yeah.
is just crazy. Because 11 years is nothing.
Right. And he packed a lot in 11 years.
Yeah, seriously. Well, my last one is John and Paul.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that in that interview that Stephen Colbert just did with Peter Jackson.
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
He said this, so I'm going to give him credit, but I was thinking it also, that really, when you really break the whole thing down, it really is a love story
Mhm.
between these two guys who just,
Yeah.
love each other so much, and need each other so much,
Right.
work together so well. And up until that point, right there, are probably they are for each other the most important person they've ever met.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yep.
And part of that is that they both lost their mothers when they were very young.
Yep.
But clearly they've been the most important relationship in each other's lives.
Hmm.
And when from episode 2 and 3, which are John coming back to life,
Yeah.
you can just see the bond between them over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's their little side conversations or the way they look at each other, they look at each other all the time.
Oh, yeah. 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 Checking in with each other, like,
Almost to the
emotionally.
point, yeah,
Yeah.
almost to the point where I felt a little bad for George and Ringo,
Right. Yeah.
because really, it's their band. It's John and Paul's band, and
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
George and Ringo are there to help.
Yeah. Exactly.
Until George comes into his own and so forth. But really,
Yeah.
it's Paul and John's band, and just those constant exchanges of eye contact that they make between each other, and the way that they're silly together and crack each other up.
Oh, yeah. 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 I love that stuff. Yeah.
So just for me, the ultimate takeaway is it's just the two of them as creative partners and friends.
Yeah. It's a good place to leave our takeaways, I think. I think, yeah, I definitely picked up on that as well. And I'm sure on some level they knew things were probably changing in a big way, but yeah, like you said, this was the most important relationship to them, to either of them, the friendship between them. They'd been through so much. They
Yeah.
started rehearsing, like in Paul's house,
Yeah.
and I think it was like they had done everything, right?
Yeah.
They changed music. They changed, like, all of a sudden bands had to write their own songs, they had to be a tight live unit. They changed the way people record music,
Yeah.
how we arrange music,
Yeah.
um, how we put hey, let's do a concept record, um, it's like,
Yeah.
what's next?
I always say that it's one of the top 5 most important meetings in human history.
Right. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Everything was there.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some others. It's really important that so and so met so and so. Like, what are some of the other great ones? Like, I mean, there's other great musical ones like Rogers and Hart,
Right.
or Simon and Garfunkel, or
Yep.
but also just like in other aspects of
Of
human
life.
culture and history.
Right. Sure.
Like Watson and Crick, right? With the DNA
sure.
double helix.
Yep.
Or I don't know.
No, that's true.
Steve Jobs and Wozniak.
Oh, right.
Just if these two people hadn't met, it really would have slowed down human progress in terms of culture and music and art and pop culture and so forth. So
oh yeah,
it is heartbreaking a little to know that very shortly they're going to be a little mean to each other, right? Like they're going to write songs where they take little digs at each other.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But I guess whatever.
But they work through it,
Yeah.
and they get through it, and they, but it's like a lot of that stuff even was like outside influences, right? Like Alan Klein, what if Brian Epstein hadn't passed away, these are, I can't really answer those kind of questions, but yeah.
Well, I had one honorable mention, which
What's that?
I'm surprised you didn't have it too. Maybe you did, which is just the gear. The gear.
Oh yeah, the gear was great. Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, seeing those guitars, those big giant Fender amps, those tall silver,
the PA ones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Paul's
John and George both have.
What?
Oh yeah. Oh no, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, just that, just all their gear is so iconic at this point. But at one point, they were just instruments that they were all using. And I like how they passed the instruments around, right? Like John and George used the Gibson J200, and everyone. It seems like everyone took a turn on that Fender bass.
Oh, the Fender Bass 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are crazy guitars.
What's your favorite piece of gear of all of it?
Oh gosh, I think
I know what you're gonna say.
Either that Telly, which weighs apparently like 100 pounds.
That's what I thought you would say.
Or the Les Paul that got dropped at one point.
Is that the Lucy that Eric Clapton gave him?
Yeah, I really like that guitar too. But the one thing I noticed about all the gear, there's no guitar stands anywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
There's not a guitar stand in sight. And now, like, you go to rehearsal and people have their special guitar stands where they're lined up,
Yeah.
And there's not a guitar
stand. They just put them on chairs and whatever.
And then that Gibson goes flying at one point. I'm like, oh my God.
You know what else I thought was cool was that on Paul's Martin, the pick guard is up here, right? Because he's not really a left-handed guitar. He just flipped it around and
he flipped it. Yeah.
Yeah, but so to see the pick guard up top is funny.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. Yep. And they both, John and George, have those twin reverbs, right? Those brand new.
Yeah.
Silver silver face twin reverbs.
Right.
Yeah, they just sound great, you know.
Well,
And
they're really incredibly well made, in those are great instruments.
yeah, and I was wondering, like, they don't seem to be playing at a really loud volume either, you
No,
know,
they were really good about that.
because it seemed like they could actually like sing above even the amps.
So I
So they
always
weren't.
wondered why John didn't have his Gibson, what is it, the J160 with the
Oh, the
little
acoustic.
with the knobs here,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
because that's what he would always use, right? But
yeah. I wonder what happened to that guitar.
yeah,
Sometimes I go on deep dive Google searches for people's guitars, and
he paid
there's
$175 for that guitar.
ugh,
Can
ugh.
you explain to me why there's been such a huge jump in the price? Okay, so that's 50 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Is a,
Now
is $175 becoming $3,000? Is that accurate in terms of what inflation would do to that number in that many
I
years?
don't know. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like
Well,
it shouldn't. Do
that
you think
seems too
it's the
high, right?
collectors? I think the collector. I blame the collectors, the people who buy guitars and don't even play them. Um, and they just use them as an investment, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
and that just irks me. Very few things in life irk me, but that irks me. Because I remember being a kid. I remember being 14 or 15, going in my local music store, and I was looking at this. I was looking at this telly that the owner had just bought for himself. It was one of those with the F, you know. It was a hollow body telly. I
Mhm.
said, "Wow, that's a beautiful guitar." I said, what, are you going to play it?" He goes, "Yeah, of course I'm going to play it. What do you know? Why would I not? Why would I buy a guitar and not play it?" I was like, "Oh, right, yeah, yeah." You know,
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to look like I wasn't paying attention. I was listening, but
that's,
I was just Googling.
I feel like George right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
I wanted to Google what would $175 in 1965 be today.
Uh huh.
So it says here, $175 in 1965 is equivalent in purchasing power to about $1,536 today, an
Okay.
increase of $1,361 over 56 years.
Wow.
So, okay, I'm kind of looking around at guitars right now.
Yeah,
The Gibson J45, which is in the ballpark of the J160, I think,
I think so. Yeah.
more or
Yep.
less. I don't know. If that were true, then a Gibson J45 now, a brand new one from Guitar Center or wherever,
Yeah.
should cost $1,500 as opposed to $175, but it doesn't.
Right. What does it
It
cost,
costs
Dan?
it costs $2,900.
Almost 3 grand.
So something's fishy there, right?
Yeah.
Why have guitars gone up so much? Is it I have no idea. Maybe there's something about the wood that there's not, right, that there's not as much wood out there. And so
Possibly. Yeah.
they have to account for that. Um,
Yeah. I don't know. I'm the furthest thing from an economist there is in this world. So I am like,
don't sell yourself short now, Ted.
right, music nerd, economist. You know, here's me over here.
Off the screen.
Yeah, off the screen. I don't know. See, my knee-jerk reaction is to just get surly and blame collectors. So that's as far as I've gotten.
I'm gonna research that a little bit. My
Yeah.
guess is it has something to do with the availability and value of the wood that they're using being not as in abundance as it was then.
Yeah. That could be. We should do a podcast on that. And then I could get all worked up.
Okay, you could channel your inner economist.
I don't know, we might lose viewers. Oh yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well,
Have you been playing Beatles songs on your guitar for the past 4 days?
I actually haven't. I've been playing Beatles
I've been
songs
playing
on the
For You.
drums.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I've been playing For You Blue.
I need that Hawaiian.
Yeah. Go, Johnny, go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one we were playing earlier.
Dig a
Yeah.
Pony.
I dig a pony. Yeah. Two of us. Yeah. Yeah. Man, so good. And then
Well,
because
glad I lived
with all
long
the,
enough to see that.
I know. Oh my God. Yeah. So do you think Peter Jackson will put out the 13-hour unedited
Uh,
bonus footage?
I don't know. Oh, we didn't even talk about how amazing it looked. Like,
Oh, the quality was unbelievable.
it's insane.
Yeah.
That's
That
like,
was the one. Yeah. Is that from the type of film they were using or the
well, I just think that they're able to do so much incredible technological work cleaning up old film now.
yeah.
You know, Peter Jackson did the same thing with some footage from World War One,
Oh, really? Okay.
and he made a whole documentary. I've never seen it, but it's real footage from World War One that
Yeah.
he put through a similar process of cleaning up to make it look like crystal clear.
Mm,
It's supposed to be amazing visually,
wow.
but I'm sure that he used the same process. All
Yeah.
those crazy talented, nerdy, technical people down in New Zealand.
What a beautiful job they did. Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God, it was like
Have yeah.
just
Has there
beautiful.
been any word from Michael Lindsay Hogg,
I haven't heard
uh,
anything.
who I admit kind of worked my last nerve watching that movie?
Yeah, he was annoying.
And then thinking about the movie he put together, he had all that amazing footage and he put together Let It Be.
Yeah,
I think he was just kind of like, I think he was, my feeling that he was a little like irked because, he had this idea that they would go to, wherever, Tripoli or someplace and the Beatles were like, no, no. And then they were going to go to Primrose Hill, in London.
yeah.
No, no, we're not doing that. So he see, I don't know. And I
Hmm.
wonder, like, was it vindictive of him to like put together? Let it
Yeah,
be.
that is a stunningly bad decision, but yeah, who knows, right? That was who
Yeah.
knows. But
Okay.
thank God for Peter Jackson and that Paul and Ringo and the estates of John and George gave them permission to do it, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
um, it's really one of the greatest gifts I think we've ever gotten from.
Oh yeah. It's easily the #1 music documentary I've seen.
Yeah,
It just blows everything else out of the water.
and really mostly because he just let it be what it is.
Yeah.
Did I just say let it be? He just
Yeah.
he didn't try to tell a story or create like an artsy narrative or
Right.
the
And
closest
then
thing
I
I could
remember.
think to it would be The Last Waltz, I suppose. But even in that, you know, Martin Scorsese interjects little interviews.
Right. Yeah. With
But
the
for the
band.
most
Yeah.
part, The Last Waltz is really just letting them play, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes that a good one too, but for the same reason. But yeah,
Oh,
just let
definitely. Yeah.
artists do what they do and just film it. Like
Right.
you don't really need to
Exactly.
add anything.
Oh, I know. It's true. Yeah, I think The Last Waltz is up there as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I wonder if there's extra footage of The Last Waltz, like backstage stuff, like during the concert or
probably tons.
rehearsals.
Yeah.
Give it to Peter Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, who's just a really great person to listen to. You know, he's also very honest. He's very George-like. He's very
He
unassuming,
is.
and
Yeah.
he doesn't talk like, in fancy director language.
Right.
He just talks very down to earth, and
Yeah. No, I love interviews with Peter Jackson. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I was excited for the Colbert one the other night. That was good.
that was good. I enjoyed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, now what do we do?
Yeah, now what do we do? I don't know. Maybe we
Go
take a
listen.
break. No, I don't want to take a break, but how do you follow that up, right?
I guess we'll just go listen to Beatle records,
Yeah.
which is what I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 days since the documentary aired, and you know,
And oh, the other thing I loved is that they did not even touch the whole Phil Spector coming in and changing things.
right, basically, yeah,
Yeah, I'm so glad they left that out.
yeah, yeah. Oh, me too.
I
So if
didn't
you
I didn't
when you
want to
listen,
hear about it. I didn't want to know, I just didn't want
right,
to.
you knew it was coming, but I was like, oh right, Phil Spector is going to come in, but I'm not going to think about it. I
Yeah,
don't have to listen to that version anymore. I can listen to Let It Be Naked, or I can listen to,
yeah.
you know, yeah, that's true.
All
All
right,
right,
Theodore. I guess we should end this.
all right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah. See you next time.
Take care. You're gonna stop here.
Oh, okay. So what did I do? Did I stop the recording?
Is it still going?